Hi, I'm Rachel. I've altered my camera just a tiny bit to keep Missy in frame. She is happily attacking a birthday bag on my bed. And I recently returned from COVID testing. Huzzah! I'm just saying that because in one of my recent videos I said that I had been sick last week and I wasn't sure, but to be, peace of mind, I went ahead and I was finally able to get COVID tested, and I hopefully should be hearing back in a week. But that's not what this video is about. This is my monthly check-in with Author's Answer, my July Author's Answer video. The Author's Answer series was started by J.D. Archer and his writing group, wherein they posed reading and writing related questions to one another. And then J.D. answered some of his own on video and then compiled them and made a playlist, which I will link down below. I have been answering each question sequentially for the last couple of years, so I'll link my own playlist down below, and I am up to question 40. Question 40 is, what type of scene do you find most difficult to write? I'm going to blatantly steal from JD and say action scenes, the same thing he did. And sheesh, I am tired of how much kick-assery has become a prerequisite for science fiction and fantasy stories in this day and age. That's why I decided to start a fantasy book based off of feminine magic. Except that as my antagonistic standpoint, I created a society that is very heavily based in martial law. Whoops. I call my story A Song of the Wanderers. And within the first couple of chapters, my main character is inducted into a proto-military order. The point being is that she's learning how to protect her homeland, starting with sparring and swordplay. Yeesh. For someone who reads as much fantasy as I do, this sort of writing does not come easily to me. I'm just glad that between the first draft and the second draft of a particular scene, I was able to change the narrative, the actual words from parry, parry, thrust, thrust, to something resembling actual human movement. I did kind of write myself a backdoor exit with this one, though, because my main character doesn't exactly stay with her proto-military group for long. She gets involved in a Lost Boys-esque plot, though technically those boys are pretty active as well. But for them, they break out into fights in a sort of willy-nilly sort of way, not some sort of organized learning plot. So my MO when describing their fights is, for the most part, I kept it kind of vague, and I focused more on their emotional realities. We'll see what my critique partners have to say about how well that worked. A few months ago, and then just recently to prep for this Author's Answered question, I watched a video that was made by Hello Future Me, and it was titled On Writing Fight Scenes. His advice is much more useful and in-depth than anything I've said here. Some of what he touches on is using strong verbs in quick succession, consistently linking cause and effect, when to go into the detail of a fight scene, setting up spatial elements, and etc., etc. I've linked the video below. You should definitely check it out. It's over 30 minutes long, but it's incredibly detailed and very well produced. Future Rachel here with a much more chill Missy behind me now. And I figured I'd tack a little something special onto the end of this video because it ended up being pretty short on its own. And I was thinking that a couple of weeks ago, Steve Donahue tagged me in a writing tag. The Writers Are Weird tag, which was created by Elliot Brooke, and I'll link both of their videos down below. I don't think I'm actually going to tag anyone because I'm a small fry booktuber. I'm an even smaller fry author tuber, so I'm not sure where to go. But, if you're watching this and you want to do this tag, then consider yourself tagged. In the meantime, I will get ahead with the questions. Question number 1 is, do you have bizarre internet searches, and if so, what's the weirdest one? And my best example probably of this is not a search per se, it was a library school assignment. Some years back I was working on my master's in information science, and we had an individual project where we had to showcase how to use library databases in order to answer a particular specific question. I was in the middle of revising my literary novella for the umpteenth time, so I decided to combine the two. So I presented a PowerPoint presentation on manslaughter. What types are there? How long should you expect to go to jail if you commit it? The library science community is a pretty welcoming community, but I'm pretty sure I got a couple of raised eyebrows after that one, at least. Question 2. Do you write people you know and dislike into your stories as villains or dumb people to kill off? Not really, though I've mostly written literary short stories and the novella, so the killing is at a minimum, other than that manslaughter point I made earlier. At the moment, in the fantasy novel I'm drafting, there's not a high body count either, but you never know. That being said, my fantasy novel does delve into issues of revenge, but I'm more focused on anti-Semitic systems rather than individuals. Question 3. Does personal hygiene sometimes come second to writing? I do have a bad habit during NaNoWriMo to get into the mindset of, why should I vacuum when I have 1,667 words to write per day? But generally, I don't use writing as an excuse for bad hygiene. I use laziness in pandemic quarantine by way of not seeing other people. Oh boy, I'm not coming off so great, am I? I swear, I bathe regularly and wash my hands consistently to 2 happy birthdays. Question 4. Do you go on baby name websites to help you name your characters? I used to, but not so much anymore. When it comes to my fantasy project and my literary novella, I already have inspiration in mind for the people I want to name my characters after. For example, in The Corners, Lena was named after the character Lena, who I played in a Harry Potter role-playing game. And in A Song for the Wanderers, Shoshana Bat Eliezer was named for Sansa, daughter of Eddard. As for my short stories, lately I've been pulling names out of thin air, and I'm a little bit awkward about it, but to be honest, I'm not as personally invested in those characters per se. Question 5. Do you have a list of actors and actresses that you would want to have play your characters if there was an adaptation made? Not really, but to piggyback off of the last question. See, I was in a Harry Potter RPG, and so I've used some of the actors and models that we used in the game to inspire some of the characters in my novella. As for Shoshana, whose nickname is Shauna, I wanted her to have red hair because Sansa has red hair, and also red hair turns up in the Hebrew Bible. But that's as far as I got into wanting a specific actress for her. I also realize I answered this question incorrectly because I was talking more about my inspiration rather than future hopes for an adaptation. But yeesh, I can't even imagine anything like that right now. Question 6. Have you ever stared at a stranger because they look like one of your characters? I wish my imagination was that detailed. I remember attending a couple of years ago a NaNoWriMo event at a local bookstore. And the point of it was to go through various images and scents and that sort of thing to get inspired for our stories. And at one point we were going through just random magazine images, and the woman next to me swore, like in a lot of emotional, upset, that the image of the model she was looking at looked exactly like her main character. Meanwhile, I had a picture of a lighthouse on hand, but the only thing that inspired me about it was the forest print on the back. Question 7. Do you talk to yourself to help work through scenes? And if so, where do you talk to yourself? No place special. I have a tendency to ramble and pace whenever I'm nervous about anything, writing related or otherwise, so basically in my condo. Question 8. While writing, do you make the expressions your characters are making? When it comes to writing, I think I'm either in the zone or trying so hard to achieve the zone that I can't really get that close to what my characters are feeling. When I read and revise, that's when I start to really identify more viscerally with their emotional states. Question 9. Do you ever practice answering interview questions in case you make it big? Maybe I daydream sometimes, but nothing concrete. Right now I'm trying to balance my anxieties about publishing versus the rest of my writing goals, and that's enough for me. And finally, question 10. Do you have a soundtrack and/or playlist for your book scenes from your book? Occasionally I do feel inspired, especially by movie scores. I don't listen to them while writing, but they can provide inspiration when I'm thinking up scenes while outlining. Or sometimes they get stuck in my head after a long editing job. I'll leave some examples below for both The Corners and A Song of the Wanderers. And that about covers it for me now. I should be back tomorrow with a book haul, huzzah! And it's a birthday book haul, and there's a significant component of that which I was gifted writing books. I'm wondering if I should do something special and author Tubi with them. But that's a ramble for another time. For now, thanks so much for sticking with me. Keep writing, everyone, and I'll see you next time.